live and direct from my phone to your ears. Welcome to my voice notes. Hello, beautiful and curious people, and welcome back to my voice notes. Well, lots has happened since we last spoke, and today we'll be covering all of it. Duran Duran at the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles, Christian Marclay at the Centre Pompidou in Paris, Will Godara's fantastic book Unreasonable Hospitality, and a very cool rare bookstore idea limited. But we also cover the latest happenings in Iran and, of course, some wonderful music. And let's start with that. It is opera season, my favorite season of the year. No matter what city you live in, there should be some lovely music program on right now. And it's only a Google away. I personally just saw a lovely production of Tosca at my all-time favorite venue, that is the Royal Opera House in London. And it was just great for my soul. If you haven't been to a classical concert, ballet or opera before, do not worry. Do your soul a favor and dive into another time and place. And to quote one of my earliest interviews that I did for Arman'S with the art legend and museums curator / director Sir Norman Rosenthal, it is real music, meaning music that lasted the test of time. On that note, I wanted to play this beautiful rendition of Wagner's opera Tristan and Isolde, conducted by the legendary Daniel Barenboim, who recently had a health scare and had to stop performing for the time being. On that note, gute Besserung, Maestro, and if you haven't already, I highly recommend his autobiography, My Life in Music. We are playing today Liebestod, one of the most famous sections of Wagner's opera Tristan and Isolde, with Barenboim conducting the West Eastern Divan Orchestra and Waltraud Meyer singing Isolde's Liebestod, performed in 2006 as part of an encore at the Berliner Philharmonie. Up next, we head to the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles and to Duran Duran, 80s pop icons who were recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and who kindly had asked me to play for their celebrations, which I humbly accepted. And I have to say, not only was it great to play for the boys, but it was the first real event that we did at Bar Marmont, which I had worked on for so many years and that had never opened, thanks to COVID. Well, here we are, and I have to say it was one of the best sets I've played in a while. I was certainly very inspired and enthusiastic about it, but getting that kind of feedback from the audience and the band was just the icing on the cake. On that note, you'll be able to hear all those juicy and exciting stories as part of season 4, as I took the chance to have a wonderful chat with Duran Duran's Nick Rhodes. And I have to say, it was a really good interview. But soon more. Now, back to the night, and one of the tracks that made my night was Red Axe's Rhythm Passage, which is on Fantasy Sounds, Errol Alkan's label, and as you might know, Errol was a big musical influence for me and also happened to have produced Duran Duran's latest album, Future Past. So, there you go. To beautiful Paris, where I got to spend a wonderful weekend celebrating the love between my friends Hikari and Jay. Part of that weekend, we got a private tour of the wonderful mid-career retrospective of the American artist Christian Marclay at the Centre Pompidou. If you're not familiar with his work, I highly recommend it. It's music-oriented, witty, smart, and work-intensive. He's probably mostly known for his masterpiece, The Clock, which is a 24-hour clock edited out of hundreds, if not thousands of movie clips, where you either see or hear the time. The show covers everything from his early works, being a pioneer in the art of vinyl scratching, all the way to his collages and installations. Here's a clip from his work, Telephones, from 1995, which is probably one of my favorites. And you can also find it on YouTube if you want to see it.
Almost every movie has a phone scene, and I mixed all these phone conversations to create this sort of abstract, absurd conversation.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Now, we head to the culinary arts, in particular to the restaurateur and author Will Godara. Will and I only recently met as we are part of, among other great minds, a so-called think tank. And I have to say, it's been very inspiring to hear Will's approach to hospitality. You see, Will was one half of the best restaurant in the world. New York City's 3-star Michelin restaurant, 11 Madison Park. And he's recently wrote down his game-changing philosophy on hospitality and management into a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. I can only highly recommend it, and I read it twice as it's that interesting. And here an anecdote on how to go way beyond the traditional way of service to achieve excellence. My take is attention to detail. 11 Madison Park was a struggling 2-star brasserie when Will Godara took the helm. 11 years later, it had 4 stars from the New York Times, 3 Michelin stars, and had been named the best restaurant in the world. How did Godara and his team pull off this unprecedented transformation? By offering hospitality that was so memorable, so over the top, it can only be described as unreasonable. The team consistently gave people more than they expected, filling a private dining room with sand, mai tais, and beach chairs to console a couple after a cancelled vacation. Or surprising a family who had never seen snow with a sledding trip to Central Park. That hospitality first culture, making people feel seen and truly welcomed, worked because it extended beyond the guests to their own team. They learned to deliver praise and criticism with intention. The best way to build your bottom line by giving more, not less. And the magic that happens when a buzzer is empowered to think like an owner. This week, Business of Fashion, which is mainly known for its coverage of business of fashion, has a fantastic podcast episode on how the power of storytelling is igniting the Iranian protests, where BOF's Imran Ahmed spoke to activists of the Iranian diaspora, Muji Mahdara and Dina Nasser Khadevi, about how creative communities from the Iranian diaspora are participating in the largest civil rights movement in Iran since the revolution in 1979. I highly recommend this episode as it's not only very informative about the current situation, but also very eye-opening what the combination of creativity, technology, and necessity can create. And I'm just so in awe of these women in Iran, but also outside of Iran. My utmost respect.
Can you explain a little bit about the different groups, marginalized groups who have also come together? So it's not just the diaspora and the Iranians, it's also a huge variety of people who have been systematically discriminated against by this regime over the last 4 decades.
So I think, and I don't know if Moj will agree, but Mahsa Amini was very much, and I don't usually like to make these comparisons because I'm actually very much against the orientalization of Iran, but it's very much like the George Floyd almost of our movement in the sense that it was years of oppression and that her murder suddenly just exploded. And as Moj very rightly said before, there were uprisings before, they were crushed and they killed so many people. So this is nothing new. It's just the novelty aspect of it. It's just that we all suddenly united, and the intersectional solidarity aspect of it, I think, is a really historical and beautiful moment, because a lot of people, I think, in the beginning, in the first days of the revolution, kept on just referring, especially in the fashion world, as this movement being solely about women's rights. And I think that's also when you saw in the fashion industry, like during Fashion Week, the Caring Group came together and, you know, made all these beautiful, incredible, powerful statements of solidarity. I mean, that Balenciaga post was amazing. One post, 14 million followers. That was just wow. So I think the early days, because the women took the street and because they were the ones that led the movement, it was indeed very much associated to being a women's rights movement. But it very quickly morphed into men standing beside them, students, children. And that, I think, was the beauty of it. And that's what makes it a historical feminist movement that should not be ever defined via Western comparisons, because it's its own movement in that sense. And that's what makes it so important and so historical.
Lastly, more books. My friend and superstar artist / photographer / it girl, Nadia Lee Cohen, connected me to her friends David Owen and Angela Hill of the London-based Idea Books, the creative industry's go-to for rare, vintage, and out-of-print beauties on fashion, photography, and design, and an indispensable resource for creatives. I'm sure you've seen it over the years in your Instagram feed, or bought, like me, tons of expensive pieces of paper that inspire you so much you want to cry. Well, David and I met on a rainy Sunday at Idea's office / studio / archive / shop and bonded over books, design, and music. It was so interesting to hear the idea behind Idea that I just had to pull out my voice memo and record that moment for all of us. We covered everything from the beginnings with Sarah from Colette to Dover Street Market to Calvin Klein and Tyler the Creator just dropping by to, well, hopefully a fruitful collaboration with Are We On Air. Enjoy and go find your new favorite books right after. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon.
But let's talk about Idea. I'd love, also for our little voice notes, first I'm amazed to sit in this room, surrounded by all the books. But tell me, where did the idea come from for Idea? The connection to Dover Street, your incredible online presence. I mean, everybody within my sphere has bought or shared or something from Idea. And of course, where do you find all the books? What drives you? So 10 questions in one go. But...
Yeah, I'll tell you. I went to university and did like a drama degree, right? And could have been all manner of different things. But I went home to where my parents were and saw there was an empty shop. And it was £50, so like $65 a week. And I thought, wow, you've got to be able to make more than that. Turns out, no. No, it was quite hard. And I couldn't necessarily make any more than that. But I was doing it, trying to fill the shop by going to what we call car boot sales and swap meets or whatever, flea markets, buying things and tighten them up a bit or whatever, or just knowing that they were good in the first place, selling them, including books. So I was doing that for, I don't know, 9 months before I gave up, come to London and got a job, also in retail to start with, before the whole media thing kicked in. And then weirdly, I'd realized that you could stock magazines and just give them back if you don't sell them, which was nice. So, and this was outside of London, so I was stocked some very interesting magazines that you would only find in like the Photographer's Gallery in London or whatever. Store. And one of them was this magazine called Big by an art director called Vince Frost. And I also took Interview magazine. No one really ever bought any of these things, but I would try and sell them to people by showing the pictures. And there was this amazing portrait of David Thewlis that I loved. And then there was pictures of these kids in Big magazine that I loved. And then, as I closed this shop, I tried to sell off everything at a flea market out of town. And this young woman's there buying these bits and is going to take them to London and sell them again, like Portobello Road or whatever. And that turned out to be Angela. And then so me and her together, so this is like 1993 or something. Wow. And then I came to London and then we're together and then I moved in with her. And then 2 amazing things happened. One, I discovered that she was also a photographer and she had taken these pictures, which I had spent literally 20 minutes per person explaining why they were so brilliant. Oh, wow. Right? But I'd lived with Angela for about a year before I realized that she'd taken those pictures. She was having like a real break and it was really strange, but brilliant. And then the other thing was that
serendipity.
Yeah, we both of us had quite a lot of the same books. And so we had a bookshelf in this flat in the apartment and there were like doubles next to each other.
Amazing.
And somebody came round because it was very kind of like a popular flat. The landlady was very much in the art and society scene, and it was an amazing flat we lived in. And a lot of people would come and visit. And one of the people who came was Sarah Lerfel, who was like, "Oh, you have like these doubles of these books, and I am about to open this shop in Paris called Colette."
Colette, c'est chouette! Colette, c'est chouette!
And maybe I could buy and we could sell, the doubles of these photo books and things. So we were like, yeah, fine. Didn't really know much about it. It was like 1996. And so we went to Paris with a suitcase full of books and then she sold them in Colette, which coincidentally and fortuitously turned out to be pretty much regarded as the best shop in the world. For at least the next 10 or 20 years, it was the best shop in the world. Yeah. So that was like a phenomenal start. But we carried on doing our own other things. We weren't like, it wasn't like that was when ideas started at all. Dover Street Market opened in London. They didn't include us at the start, which is fine because I don't think anyone would have known who we were really. But then Sarah had a word with them, went like, you really should be working with these people because they actually live in your city, like near your store. And so they did. So we've done Dover Street from like a year and a half after it opened. It's now, I don't know.
2005, 4?
Yeah, it's like 15 or more years now is all I know. And then we weren't in New York. They didn't necessarily want us there. But at the same time that happened, Instagram started, which I discovered because I walked down into the basement at Dover Street to our space and one of the staff was like holding up one of our books, taking a picture of it on his iPhone. And I'm like, well, what are you up to? And he's like, no, I'm putting it on Instagram. It's this app, photo sharing app. There's this guy on there at Templeton who does this like hashtag, which is a new word for us all at the time, hashtag photo book jousting. Right? You pull a book off your shelf, send a picture, and then try and compete with Ed, who would find better books that he had, and then you would keep going. And so this guy was cheating by taking books from our space, which he had not bought, and entering himself into this kind of online early social media contest. I had to buy, I didn't have an iPhone. Weirdly, I was sponsored by BlackBerry, which is so bizarre. Yeah. I was an early influencer for a dying technology. It was quite impressive. And I clung on to that for a while because it was free. So I, somehow or other, I think I did a bit of work for somebody, like wrote a joke or something, and they gave me an iPad as payment. And I remember, you know, like sometimes when people have like a brilliant idea, they think to protect it, I was going to write it down, seal it in an envelope and post it to myself. You know, that one. So I didn't quite do that, but I'd made one phone call to someone else who was a book dealer, because technically that's what we were. We would buy books, sell them again, you know, that's what it is. I called him and I said, look, you're the only one I'm telling, but this Instagram thing, that is the future of selling books. It's perfect. It's perfect for trying to sell photo books and books with amazing imagery, because everyone else is scrabbling around trying to, like, literally standing on the edge of a fucking precipice in order to make something popular enough to get likes on Instagram. We have books, hundreds of books, and within them hundreds of pages of hundreds of photos, and suddenly we were like, oh shit, none of it is digitized, no one's seen it before. So it's like boom time. Everything we put up is tomorrow's meme, if you see what I mean. Yeah. Like, they have to start somewhere. Yeah. People had never seen these pictures, and it became so popular in a very nice way. It's all gone now, so I always say this was sort of like, what do you call, you know, this sadness of the nostalgia of what used to happen, but we just dominated kind of like the whole thing. I mean, not like, you know, other people would have millions of followers. Obviously, the Kardashians was in this period as well. We weren't like actually competing with them, but in strange ways, there were things like you could take somebody like, say, Charlotte Rampling, right? Mm-hmm. We know what the great book is, and within it, we know what the phenomenal photographs are. And in the old days of having shops or pop-up stores or meeting people in person in our office now in the book room, we would open the book and show them the picture and go like, you know, look at that, her legs go on forever, la, la, whatever, you know. And then they would buy it. But now we would just, okay, so we'll put that up there, and then you hit however many people it was, 30,000, then 100,000, etc. It keeps going up. But the strange thing was, lots of people couldn't afford the books, naturally, but were fans of the thing because it's £300 book and, you know, the students or something. Then I would start to see that a lot of them would use pictures from the books that we had on their profile pic. Mm. So the one primary "this is me" thing is coming from this book. So it's really beautifully like engaged with all of these things. Then the other thing was going back to like Charlotte Rampling. In the old days, the cover and then 2 pictures from inside, strip of 3, do it again, strip of 3, do it again, strip of 3. And then you would see the likes. So out of the 2 from inside, if one does really, really well, next time we find the book 3 months later or something, I'm going to use that one again, and I will drop the other one and try something else. And see. So by this process continually of trial and error, we were honing down what the most popular pictures of certain people and things were, to the point where we were eradicating the other ones. And I'm pretty sure that the photos that we were choosing for a large swathe of young people, certainly, was their visual reference for that person. Whether it was Winona Ryder or, it doesn't matter, like the Charlotte Rampling one, definitely. And it's very similar to, so say you've got like a show at the Royal Academy, Monet, right? And inside it are 50 works, 40 drawings, whatever it is, like all of these different pictures. But there's only one on the poster. And the one on the poster is not just on the poster before you go in, it's on the tube trains,
on
right?
The taxis, on the book.
On the taxis. Yeah. So I suspect that if they go, oh, we had amazing footfall, we had the gallery show open for 4 months or something, and 300,000 people came through, that's a huge result. You know, so 300,000 people would have seen like all of these pictures. Millions see the one they put on the poster. And the one you put on the poster, it becomes for a long time
the image.
the image that people know that artist by, because for the most part, they didn't see the show, no idea what they do other than that. So the responsibility of curating the one picture on the front is actually quite, it doesn't weigh like terribly heavy on my shoulders. However, and mainly the reason it doesn't weigh so heavily and so it's interesting is because of the trial and error. When I drop them, it's because people didn't like them. So actually, over a period of time, it is not me saying, this is the coolest picture of Marlon Brando, or this is the coolest. So really,
I bought a lot of books from you just
from
getting enticed by that cover image.
A
lot of things drew me in right away. Or you see so many times these cover images getting shared just for the pleasure of seeing that image online, right?
Sometimes they mean something. There's a tremendous one from one of the Ibiza books that we just recently put up again. Books, the one where the two girls are, one girl has larger breasts than the other, right? Immediately appealing, but now I write in the caption, you and me and you and me, or whatever, because when I first
I understand why the captions are so good. It's you writing them.
But when I first put that picture up, I wouldn't have written that.
Yeah.
I would have, I don't know what I would have written like, it's this rarest Ibiza book in the world, which it is, it's a phenomenal book. But it would get, in the old days, 150 comments, that picture. And every single comment would be tagging someone, me and you and me and you and me. Because it turns out to be a universal truth that unless you're that lady with the largest breasts in the world that Nadia went to the party as recently or whatever, I've forgotten her name.
Lola Ferrari,
Unless you are her, there is always someone with larger or smaller breasts. Who'd have thought it? That we sort of stumbled across. Now it doesn't even need to be like a meme, but I do see it a lot coming around. It's exactly why in the old days people used to put certain images on gift cards, and, like a birthday cards and things like that. So we're aware that happens sometimes, and it's very dislocated from. There's only ever that book is hard to find.
I was about to say, like
years to find.
Yeah, these books, like if they do really well, for instance, you have one copy, most likely,
sometimes,
right? And you have, let's say, 100 people reach out for that book or trying to book that. What do you do?
Well, we don't have to do anything because they just find out that it's sold very quickly, which is a shame. So there was this amazing period. I wasn't sure if you were allowed to sell anything or not.
Oh.
So I wrote this phrase, email if you want at ideabooks.com. But the brilliant thing about it was that, one, I thought you could argue, what do you mean? We're not selling anything. I just said email if you want, whatever. Like that. And then secondly, it was an incredible filter because the book was usually like £500. And if it had a popular picture, then you're going to get a lot of emails, right? But the brilliant thing was certain people could not work out that was an email address, right? And so the truth is, if you actually helped them enough to communicate with you, which there was no DM then, so it was brilliant. So you basically didn't have to worry about it. But if you did, through comments, communicate with them, they would never be able to afford it or want the book when you finally got through. The other great thing was that it didn't show the prices.
It doesn't show now either, no?
No, that's because we got chucked off, though, and don't have a shop anymore. So for a while, we did have Instagram shopping. Well, put it this way, where are we now? In November.
Yeah.
So next May, the last of our naked yoga books with a bit of somebody's bum showing will be rescinded and let go from being recorded as a default, like if you screwed up. And then maybe they will then offer us...
Yoga for men.
They'll offer us the shop again, right?
That's crazy because they were thinking it's like sexual...
But I mean, everyone gets...
Well, technically you are because you're in Soho right above the sex shop.
Exactly. So now you can't see the prices again. Although, I mean, you can because you did link straight to it through the link in bio. But there was that nice period where no one saw the prices, which thank God, because people who can't afford things get terribly upset by their value, which is really, really annoying because they seem to be quite happy walking around art galleries. You know what I mean? They don't get actually physically violent just because they don't have $80 million. Do you see what I mean? Like, they just go to the gift shop and buy a postcard, But
it shows you how the value they put onto books It's different to how they put it onto actually a painting.
Yeah, I think that. But also they just don't understand that the price really has not much to do with us. It's just a market value price, and it's purely to do with the rarity and the scarcity of the book and how flipping hard it is to find it.
How do you find them?
Well,
or what's the criteria for you? Like stuff I randomly find, or I know that this holy grail of a book exists and I need to go and find it in some nooks and crannies in Tokyo.
So to start with, like, we're very, very good at finding books that we know exist. So that helps a lot. So a lot of the work is done by the fact that on Instagram, you would see like what looks like one copy of something. You don't know how many of them we've got. Sometimes we're kind of organised and we might have 10 copies, you know, and if it's £100 book, that's £1,000, quite handy if you sell them all in 2 seconds or something. So great. So we just buy all the time. So I think we had to work it out for somebody once, and we buy a book like every 20 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7, all the time.
Wow.
So, and it is a lot.
Digitally or...
Yeah, that is finding them via the internet. Because once you know what you're looking for,
you know what to look for.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where it comes up.
Yeah.
And if they all start getting...
From private dealers or individual or like just...
Yeah, they usually are private dealers, and then they get amalgamated into, so it could be Amazon Marketplace or eBay or all of the Japanese ones or all of... There's a lot of these things, American Book Exchange, there's multiple ones. The sad thing is that most second-hand books don't exist because, unfortunately, books have ISBN numbers. And this has been exploited enormously since 2006 by companies running software, which happens all the time, every day. They plug in the software, and after about 2 hours, they have 1.3 million books online for sale. They don't have them, of course. So all they do is say, I want to be 10% more than X or whatever. And you can prove this to yourself if you really want to. We did, because it concerns us more than it concerns most people. But so if you take a book and it's inscribed to Bunnykins or something like that, and if you put it onto the internet, especially if it's a rare book and there aren't hundreds and hundreds of them, so you could upload that to Amazon Marketplace or something. And then after about 2 hours, there will be 8, 9, and 10 copies of the book, all at different price points, all shipping in 1 to 3 months. Wonder why. And all inscribed to Bunnykins. You have the only real book.
Wow.
That's how it works. Massively annoying.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Makes it really difficult for us, for everyone, because it's really confusing. It's very duplicitous. And Amazon are the main beneficiary because they really don't give a fuck. If there's only one copy anywhere in the world, especially if you don't ship, like in America, they list things and they won't ship to the rest of the world. So you put it up for $300 in New York, this one copy or whatever. 2 hours later, there will be one mirrored in the UK, £1,300.
Wow.
And if you buy that, you'll get that one in 2.5 months on a slow boat ship from Brooklyn to London. We do it the hard way.
The hard way, the real way, the analog way. We love that. That's why we also have...
We go into bookshops and look for things. But the important thing is that it's all very well and very mechanical. Once you've found a brilliant book, just keep buying it. And obviously, if the price keeps going up, then fine. And it will only ever stop going up if people don't want the book anymore. There's all market forces. That's fine. It's not really, really exciting buying your 27th copy of Paris, Texas, this year, for example.
Is that the most popular one?
Over time, yeah. I mean,
what's the most expensive, most precious book you've ever sold, or an idea, and also what's like the cash cow? Which one you can always find and always sells out? And
well, Paris, Texas is probably that. It only needs us to remind people that it exists and it goes.
Why is that? Just because of that image?
No, it's really
pink sweater.
Yeah, that is good. That helps a lot. It's a really good book.
Yeah,
and it's a very emotional film that people get very attached to, and then they get attached to her face and his face, so you've got a double whammy there. Goodness knows, but it's not like there's any choice, because that is the best one of those type of books. Yeah, I'm sure we do. There isn't much competition. It's an anomaly. It's just too good for what it is. So that sells brilliantly all the time. So does that little book of the Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh yeah.
People absolutely adore that. And anything to do with Royal Tenenbaums works exactly the same way. Yes, a lot of Sofia Coppola, pictures of her more than anything else, for some reason works better. She has the same thing going on that Nadia probably does with her fan base, which is...
Enigma.
No, like Nadia's really good, but I don't think necessarily that her fans think she's so far out there, she's untouchable, if you see what I mean. And Sofia Coppola is really beautiful, very pretty, but she's not the supermodel. She's not the unreachable, unattainable, incredible. She's a working woman who looks cool while she's doing it, but is clearly working and making things. And I think that appears to be extremely attractive and empowering to a lot of people. I think a lot of the fans of both think that they could possibly do it too, and some of them will be able to, obviously. An idea is like that, in that we write to everybody. When we communicate, we assume that everybody is creative. That's how we do it, whether it's explicit or not. But it is a bit like, fuck, it's raining, but look at this picture. It's like, bang, bang, get out of bed and do something. Everything is about making stuff. We sell books to people who make things and work with them.
I always say there are three things that work on social media very well: sex, it's comedy, and the actual process of creating.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
The BTS, basically.
And sex you can't do anymore.
Yeah.
So, and comedy is tricky for people who make jokes which are, not boring. Yeah, I think you're right. Ours fits in with that.
I mean, idea is the perfect mood board. It's like
we tapped into that.
Yeah,
so
Pinterest of books.
I mean, I always wondered why Pinterest worked, but now I.
Are you on Pinterest?
No, no. I mean, why it works at all. But but now I do understand. People perhaps are not as creative or brilliant as not everyone is brilliant.
Yeah.
Right.
Unlike us.
Yeah, exactly. Muggles are not special people. Not magic people. But no, it's not that. But it seems that a lot of people like to be spoken to as if they were creative. Even in reality, we have to go, well, you're probably not that great. A singer, actor, whatever it is. But people do like to be addressed that way. I think that's part of like why idea succeeds in that way. It's all communication. And then it's all positive. That was the other thing I learned from taking Interview magazine in the 90s, because I grew up in UK with everyone was very arch and clever and satirical and sarcastic or whatever. Hey, idea. Yeah, that is. So it's not a store, it's a door to start with. Yeah, with a bell on it that says idea. So you want 101, it's right next to Bar Bruno. There you go. Black door to the side of it. All right, thank you. And someone coming to pick up.
I love that.
There you go.
Where did the name idea come from?
My elder daughter, when she was about 8 or something, we needed a name for this pop-up shop we took. She named it that because it's an acronym of Iris, her name, David, Edith, younger daughter, Angela.
I love that.
But it is the perfect one-word descriptor of what we do, because...
That was her idea?
Yeah, I think she fell into it, though, because of the idea. Yeah. But, I mean, like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Really useful.
Yeah.
Genius. But what's great about it is that it is this one-word descriptor, because if we'd done the straight way, if we'd actually called ourselves inspiringbooks.com, you could see the trouble with the... However, idea, which maybe says the same thing, but less clumsily. Yeah. The other thing I love about it is that there is no bigger idea above us. It's not like, oh, yeah, well, I thought I'd call my company Apple, but, it's got some competition there. It's none of that. Yeah. It doesn't exist. So, and it's loose and free. Yeah. So we get called idea books all the time, which is irritating. It's hard to get rid of the books thing.
Yeah. The most rarest book you've ever had and sold?
I'm trying to remember which one it was. We don't go in for it like big time, like chasing the huge ones. No. But some things crop up that are expensive. We had that John Cage mushroom book, which is much less of a book and more of a folio of drawings and works. It's completely gorgeous. That's in dollars, about $17,000 or something. But we did have somebody in mind.
That was on the website, like through Instagram as well? Or?
No.
And not at Dover Street or anything?
No.
No.
Yeah, they've gone, but they are coming. Some I Don't Work Here is coming back. Maybe this week.
Okay, cool. So if I leave it in its packaging until...
Emily would like swap.
I've got the blue,
Ah.
but I'm more the black wearing person.
It's quite hard to tell you whether I can't remember whether we get any free black ones at all, sorry.
That's fine.
How about if you email us in a week?
Yeah, if I just waited.
Yeah.
And then...
I'll Instagram it if we've actually got them. And then just tell.
And then I could just... I won't wear it until then.
Good deal.
Even though I really want to wear it now. Thank you so much, mate.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, and you. Bye.
I know where it is now.
That hat is this year's hit.
Really?
I Don't Work Here. It's Angela thought of writing it on there. I wrote the sorry bit on the back.
Do you want to write, because we're doing merch right now, do you want to write something for us?
I'll have a go.
Yeah.
And see. But if we write anything like that, we just want it back. But the I Don't Work Here has sold 10,000 hats this year. It's loads. More than we can print or make, embroider. It's really...
People like a funny little...
Yeah, well, that one works everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Every time. It never doesn't work. So, but we had this before when we did the T-shirt that said Winona. We sold in the 15,000, 20,000 T-shirts over 5 years. Yeah. Now we might do a book kind of with her.
I was going to say, did she reach out? Did people reach out?
She didn't know. She was very quiet about the whole thing. I didn't know her. I don't know her now, but now we're looking at a book of Polaroids, mainly of her, by this lovely guy who worked in Marc Jacobs as the VIP PR. And he just took Polaroids all the time of all the people that come and hang out in his office, which was underneath the Marc Jacobs store in New York. And so he's good friends with her, and he said, and I said to him, ask her, but you've got to tell her that we're the people that did that Winona shirt, because she might hate us or something. So, and she was like, no, that's cool. Yeah, she'll do it. She might do a little drawing for the front, be interviewed for it. And then, of course, we have to bring the T-shirt back, I'm pretty sure. But one of the nice things so that's the good thing about Idea not being like Idea books. Like sometimes the books are the hits, right? Yeah. And a third of the business is selling the vintage books. And 1/3 is selling new books that we publish. And the other third is the merch. But as you go through the year, we don't care whether we sell twice as many I Don't Work Here hats as we do books in October. It doesn't make any difference to us. But it's nice that they all flow beautifully in between.
I love it.
They all do the same thing because they all communicate. It's all mostly writing in that sense. So the bags always say something, the hats always say something, the T-shirts will always have a picture that says something or words that say something. Everything is like that. And then within our customers, which are always going to be self-identifying as creative, that's the nice way to put it, there's another subset, which is the ones people who will wear and carry bags with things on them. So basically, they are the type of people who won't mind if they get on a bus or a train, someone else talking to them. That's the thing. A lot of people really don't want that. And so they wear a blue sweater from The Gap, right? And a pair of jeans. And then you can sit there on a 2-hour journey and no one will necessarily speak to you at all. However, if you sit there with a bag with drugs written on it and walk through an airport or something, do you see what I mean?
Have you had any feedback on that one, by the way? Did people say, oh my God, I have to tell you my story with my...
Yeah, now
drugs and I got stopped at the airport.
but now what they say is like, oh no, they've seen loads of them. So it's gone way past. So I don't know which airport you'd have to go to find somebody. I think they get
Miami.
I think they get briefed when they start.
Yeah.
They're like, there's the coffee machine. Oh, and by the way, these people made this bag with drugs on it. It's not funny. Try not to react.
I love that.
I think that's pretty much what happened. Yeah. It's been going a long time, that.
Did you guys ever do vinyl records as well? I mean, we have our friends here, the Diwali brothers, that you obviously friends with and work with, and they're big record collectors, big book collectors as well. I think that's your shared love. I'm sure you came across some rare records at some point. Somehow it may be attached to books to an artist.
In Dover Street, we would just put like 7-inch singles very often, just like one. But it would have to be like Patti Smith Piss Factory, you know, with that great sleeve or something like that. It was only to kind of antagonize people. Angela buys a heck of a lot of vinyl. She buys reissues of great albums and things like that. That's her thing. I mean, a good example. So we had the first of Thurston Moore's first fanzine that's called Killer, we wrote about a couple of weeks ago. And it's like free flexi disc inside. So one, the flexi disc was actually from a different magazine called Flexi Pop, which we have had in complete run and sold to David Diwali because it's amazing. It was a magazine as flexi disc. That was it, basically. There was also a magazine which was just a cassette on a board and shrink wrapped.
I remember that.
And it just had very cool. But the whole magazine, there wasn't nothing to read.
That's a good idea
just on
for
cassette.
the Avian book. There you go.
Yeah, it works very well. But when you got to the Thurston Moore one, not only was it a flexi disc that came with an issue of Flexi Pop, he just found a box of them. But he'd also like melted it with over a flame, so it's been blowtorched. So we're better on those sort of records than actually, I'm going to sit down and listen to the vinyl record I bought from Idea.
Yeah.
It's more likely that we just sold something that someone's already burnt.
What song would you choose to describe Idea?
Well, then I get into trouble with other people who were like, hey, why did you pick that? That isn't what we do. Well, I tell you what that we could do. The songs that played best when we had the stores that we've run and we're in charge of the music. So Big Audio Dynamite, E equals MC squared, is perfect in there. It's one of those rolling songs, repetition cycle songs, but with enough loose edges. So that.
Why don't you play us a tune, pal? I don't like music. Come on, you little geezer. You look funny when you're 50.
Somebody I never met, but in a way I know. Didn't think that you could get so much from a picture show. Man dies first, real people ask, what's the deal? This ain't how it's supposed to be. Don't like no aborigine. Took a trip in Power Square, pop star died as hell. No fans are screaming, shouting, monsters came.
Like we had a shop with a very polished floor. And it was all white, and Vitsu had done the whole store. It was a kind of world-class thing, big glass windows. You could kind of glide around it. So Roxy Music, More Than This, was insanely good in the shop.
More than this, you know there's nothing more than this. Tell me one thing, more than this.
Remember even at Dover Street, this is like 2004 or 5 when it was in there. And I still have a large format magazine I bought.
What, Joe's? Is that what you had? Was it Joe's mag? Did you buy
Black
it from
and
us
white.
or not?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it won't be that then. I wonder what it was.
And it's just some naked woman lying on a bed. There was just those 2 images I remember. There was other stuff in it. But it was like a compilation of things. But I remember the Roxy Music cover in there as well.
Yeah, anything Roxy is great.
Yeah.
But More Than This, for playing in a store, that works tremendously well. I was going to say we are quite good on selling to music customers, because sometimes what people think is that we sell our books to fashion designers and all they do is like open it up and copy this, which they don't. Like all of the good ones never do that at all. They just absorb everything, and then
like Calvin Klein, who walked into your office.
Yeah, Calvin Klein walks into the office, who actually was doing a hotel and wanted minimalism, and Angela was like, I think you invented that. And, but he still wanted the books again. But we're very good at selling to people in pop stars and musicians. And so there it's nicer because no one goes, well, these people just buy your books and then copy everything.
They're just trying to get references and ideas.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where it makes it clearer. So people like Diwali Brothers buying things, for example, or even like everyone's been cancelled, but you know, like try and pick someone who isn't Tyler, creator, or somebody like that.
Tyler must be a good customer.
Yeah, we just met him. It's very lovely. But what's nice is that they're seeing usually pictures, and they make music, you know, without pictures or, you know, whatever, sometimes without words. So that is clearer for me, for other people to try and understand. No, this is not about look at this reference and copy it at all. This is absorb this stuff. In fact, the best way to put it is that a lot of people see the best books ever as a bit of a challenge. So their office or studio, they want the most phenomenal books, sometimes the weirdest and most disastrous books too, yeah, there. And then when they go to draw shoes or when they go to design houses and things, they look and they got to be on that level, hit that level. So it's nothing to do with specifically what's in that exactly. Do you see what I mean? It's just like, it's a bit like a lot of writers, I think, they sit down, they have like the great works around them, and then you start writing. It sets a standard and a bar, and it reminds you, don't be lazy. Yeah. Don't be, this person was so brave. It elevates
the atmosphere of the space.
Yeah, this person was so brave that they made an entire book just of ankles or whatever it was that they'd photographed, and I can do what I'm doing now. I think that's how it works particularly nicely. So I'm supposed to have a third song for you, aren't I?
First thing comes to your mind.
Yellow Magic Orchestra, Firecracker. It's a good song. I mean, it's more than a good song. Yeah, there's something about it glides, that song. Yeah. I still have the playlist from the shop because that was trial and error as well. Firecracker.
Yeah, David, it's been a real pleasure.
Well, there you go.
Thank you very much.
We should look at your merch when you do your merch.
Yes, for sure. We're working on it.